トビデオ
Alright class, today we're going to be talking about a character archetype in anime that I'm sure none of you are sick of hearing discourse about. The anime pervert archetype. So if you have been knee-deep in the discussion of anime as a whole on numerous social media forums for the past decade or so, the topic of the anime pervert has come up. Specifically, the question of it being, should said archetype be relegated to the dustbin of history? It's easy to see why such discourse can get whipped up. On one hand, there are a lot of iconic anime characters who are memorable in spite of, or maybe because of their vivacious personalities. On the other hand, events such as Me Too and anime becoming a more international phenomenon have really put the spotlight on the anime pervert, and most people just see it as an outdated cultural artifact, and that's being charitable. As for my 2 cents, I'm really of two minds of it. For one thing, I've seen the pervert archetype actually be handled well enough that it can be endearing. Plus, it is my personal belief that we need more horny characters in media, not less. On the other hand, I also believe that the pervert archetype is an archetype that one needs to handle with care. The reason why there's so much backlash to it is because there are so many pervert characters that are just poorly written. Either their poor knowledge of boundaries when it comes to women is shallow and one note, or in the worst case, we are honestly supposed to find this behavior charming and relatable. So yeah, in short, not against it in theory, but I get why people despise it. It's such an easy way to render a character obnoxious. And it's bad enough when such a personality is given to a secondary character. But when such a personality is given to a main protagonist, whoo boy, you're in for a world of hurt.
Ha! Ha! Ha!
Oh boy, let's get this over with. Ryohei Yamazaki is a 23-year-old recent college graduate with career aspirations. He desires to get a position at the magazine Potato Boy, Japan's leading men's lifestyle magazine, read Skin Mag. But it's not just for the prestige, of course. Yamazaki has been a longtime reader of Potato Boy, and you can probably guess it's not for the Norman Mailer interviews.
When I get this job working for Potato Boy, I'll have money to burn. I'll be part of the international media set with expense account lunches, trips to Paris and Rome, and girls falling on their backs so that I'll give them a double-page photo spread. I got it made!
In case you haven't caught on through his subtle character actions, Yamazaki loves the ladies. It's not even so much of a love, more so an obsession. A sickness. He doesn't so much have a brain because he prefers to think using that rock-hard dowsing rod he carries in his boxer shorts. This illness is so severe that he can't even concentrate on the interview questions because he's getting hot and bothered over a woman chewing on her pen, blurting out his sex obsession and revealing his erection to the company heads as a result.
I admit it! I think about sex a lot! In fact, all the time!
Yes, that's pretty obvious to us.
But that same woman, it turns out, is Yuki Oda, Potato Boy's head editor, and she immediately takes an interest in this young man's uncontrollable lust, seeing it as the key to figuring out what men like him want to see in their magazine's pages. From there, it's Yamazaki's chance to finally climb the corporate ladder and reach the top, all while being given the chance to utilize his being a sex-crazed lunatic to be the best at his job, provided that quality doesn't get him fired first.
However, it could be worse. Okay, I've got my energy back.
Oh dearie dear, this one's gonna be a doozy. 1987's Junk Boy is one of those anime that you know deep down, right in your brain's heart, why it has never gotten a re-release beyond the original VHS release. Insufferable has a name, and its name is Junk Boy.
36, 22, 36, my favorite numbers! Ah!
I really should have known what I was getting myself into when I picked this anime out of the lineup. Comedies are always going to age like milk, especially sex-based ones, and especially sex-based ones done in the medium of anime. I opened that bag that had Dead Dove written on the side of it. What did I expect? And yet, I find myself fascinated by it. I could spend the next 20 minutes doing all the performative shaking of the head and the sucking of air through teeth at all the dated comedy one would expect from a 35-year-old ecchi anime, but that's way too easy. This is an anime that, even if you were to take the dated sexual politics as just a sign of the times, it would still fail at what it is trying to do as an artistic work. Ladies and gentlemen, this anime is just plain old not good. So join us as we figure out why Junk Boy lives up to his name and belongs in a garbage can.
God, what's he been up to? And some of these words are pretty obscene!
Junk Boy started out as a manga by Yasuyuki Kunitomo. Born in Fukuoka, Japan on New Year's Day, 1953, Kunitomo began his manga career by being a graduate of the Waseda University's Manga Study Group, one of the first authorized cultural arts circles devoted to manga by an accredited Japanese university. From there, he would study under the mentorship of Satoshi Ikezawa, a mangaka who was best known for being the creator of the popular racing manga series Circuit Wolf, its success being credited for kickstarting Japan's supercar boom in the late 70s. Kunitomo had limited success as an artist in the industry for most of the 70s to early 80s. Mostly he wound up assisting on spin-off and supplementary material to more successful manga and anime. It wasn't until 1985 when he finally hit it big with a workplace comedy, Junk Boy. Published in Manga Action, Junk Boy was Kunitomo's breakout hit, selling over 5 million copies over the course of 8 volumes. This allowed him to have a long and fruitful career doing other manga with workplace settings such as Planner Ali, Coco-chan, and 10 Billion Man. He would also mentor future mangaka such as Golden Kamui's Satoru Noda. Tragically, Kunitomo would end up passing away from heart failure at the age of 65 on September 20th, 2018. But back to Junk Boy. It was pretty obvious why music company Victor Entertainment took an interest in this anime. It was a bestseller. Plus, there was a lot of naughty humor nestled within the manga's pages, and of course, this being the peak OVA era, sex sells. The animation studio heading up this project does come as a surprise, as they were a little studio known as Madhouse. Yes, at the same time Madhouse is coming into its own as a studio with their glorious Yoshiaki Kawajiri films hitting production, they were also tasked to create this. But then again, I'd hate to imply Madhouse was above such a thing at the time, considering they also got credit for this. What's even more shocking was who was heading up the project. Katsuhisa Yamada. You may not have heard of the name, but you definitely heard of the projects he had worked on. He was a frequent collaborator with the American animation studio Rankin-bass, acting as director for specials such as The Stingiest Man in Town and Flight of the Dragons, and being animation director for The Hobbit and The Last Unicorn. By this point in his career, he was working freelance. He had just come off of working on the AIC 1986 OVA Outlanders and had taken a lot of the staff who helped him out on that anime over to Madhouse with him. Boy, do I really wish I was doing a video on Outlanders instead of this. That'd be fun.
Hey, can't you just be happy for her, you bitch?
You're the bitch. Just shut up and drink this.
Okay, maybe I should calm down now because there are some things I do like about this anime. Even though the footage I have is obviously ripped from an old early 90s VHS and slapped on some god knows where website, you can still see the artistry behind this anime. I mean, of course, it's Madhouse, but I did like the fact that the men and women behind this anime were clearly not slumming it here. What really struck out to me the most was just how wonderfully 80s the art direction is. It's definitely something you could consider a city pop anime with how it really captures the bubble economy of Japan. From its polished boardrooms, to its cigarette-stained offices, to its bustling red light nightlife. We can credit this to art director Yoko Nagashima. She's a background artist and art director responsible for a lot of the pop art influences we've seen in anime like Take the X Train and 1919. And while Junk Boy's backdrops aren't nearly as extravagant compared to those two, the ultra 80s styling that I'm a total sucker for still come through. But the creator I found to be the real MVP of this anime is character designer Hiroshi Hamasaki. Hamasaki was a former Tatsunoko regular who left the company in the mid-80s. He was one of the Outlanders animators who followed Yamada over to Madhouse, where he would become a permanent fixture. He would later do character designs for future Kawajiri anime such as Goku Midnight Eye and Cyber City Uedo 808, and would go off to helm some of Madhouse's far more ambitious projects in the future. And it's here in Junk Boy that you can really see his talent for character design because he draws some gorgeous women. Beautiful women of all designs, from the serious, mature corporate queen Yuki Oda to the short-haired minx on the motorcycle Aki. And they're designed in a way that allows them to be animated glamorously by the likes of Yasuomi Umetsu, but can also break model for the more comedic expressions. But I also gotta give credit to Yamada for also doing some of the heavy lifting of this anime through his boarding. He not only has an eye for making some admittedly funny imagery throughout this anime, but he also has an eye for fan service. One scene in particular I have to shout out is a rooftop lovemaking session that feels, for lack of a better term, appropriately erotic. The mood is soft and slow, and it's centered around the motif of the girl being slid out of her expensive evening gown and it blowing away on the night breeze as things get hotter and heavier. It's a sex scene that's classy while still managing to be genuinely tantalizing. Man, why do I even hate this anime?
Bed's the best place to work out my revised contract.
Negative.
Right, him, yeah, right, of course. Yamazaki is the fly in the lotion of this anime. If I compare the beautiful 80s backdrops and animated women this anime has to a luscious, juicy peach, Yamazaki would be the razor blade embedded in the pit of that peach that cuts my mouth wide open and causes me to bleed out on the floor. Let me make it crystal clear here and now. You don't always need to have a likable protagonist you need to root for in order for the media you are engaging with to be considered good. There is plenty of good art out there with unsympathetic protagonists, but at the same time, they do need to be compelling, and this is usually done by the author deliberately making them unsympathetic. Laying it all out there, Yamazaki is not just any old anime pervert, he is depraved with a capital D. He is one glass of paint thinner away from becoming Joaquin Phoenix and the Master. The title, Most Perverted Man in Japan, isn't just a cute nickname, but a scientific descriptor like how one would call a box jellyfish the most venomous marine animal. He loves women, and all he ever thinks about is getting horizontal with those women. It's his prime directive for doing anything. The reason why his dream job is working at Potato Boy is not just him paying it back for his porn addiction, but also so he can have his chance to rise to the head of the company and possibly live out his Hollywood producer fantasies of having girls sleep with him in exchange for coverage.
I'll do anything to be a star. I'm really not that kind of girl, but now you're working on Potato Boy magazine. You could take some pictures.
But Yamazaki is already ahead of the casting couch allegations because he's already engaging behavior that go beyond a simple Twitter cancellation. The first thing he does when he arrives at his new job is force himself on the female receptionist at the front desk. Frankly, I don't know why Yuki Oda hired him in the first place. Yes, I know it was because his boners were so intense that he can properly judge the qualities of their pinup shots. No, really, that's literally the position he got hired for. But Yamazaki and his libido are a liability, if anything, with how he can't go 5 minutes without engaging in some sort of sex crime.
This kid may have his uses after all, even if he is a triple distilled creep.
It's like Yamazaki actively wants to get fired from his dream job. When you have a meeting at your boss's house, your first instinct should not be to openly rifle through her underwear drawer. This man is clearly not well. But take away his behavior that's only acceptable at the Activision Blizzard offices, and you still have a pretty unpleasant person. When he's not putting the moves on every woman he comes in contact with, he's basically trying to treat them like his own personal secretary. And for someone who is desperate to get it wet at all hours of the day, Yamazaki is surprisingly judgmental of other people's taste in women if it doesn't line up with his standards.
Can I play with my rubber duck in the bath, please?
Of course you
My
can.
bosses give me so much hassle. I'm all stressed out. My wife doesn't understand.
Mommy will make it better.
How did I get into this?
This is all important to keep in mind because, in spite of all of the above that suggests that he's a pretty low-down creep, the anime expects us to find Yamazaki both likable and relatable. He is the primary point of view character. We see the world through his eyes. The entire anime hinges on our ability to see this disgusting little sex goblin and think of him as a well-meaning, amiable rake. That is why the anime indulges in the fantasy of Yamazaki moving up the corporate ladder in just a few days by his ability to literally charm the pants off the ladies. Yeah, I'm sure this idol singer just needed to hear how this guy was so addicted to masturbating to her videos as a kid, and how that was the only thing keeping him from becoming a rapist, in order for her to work up the courage to do a full nude photo shoot.
I put your pictures all over the wall because I could never spare a hand to turn the fanzine pages. You probably stopped me turning into a rapist or something.
Also, that rapist comment? Ha! Liar. Unwittingly, it seems like the women in this anime do the most in trying to sell you that Yamazaki isn't as bad as his actions make him out to be. At worst, they treat him like a dumb puppy who doesn't know any better. And even then, they'll just happily be his emotional support post whenever he's feeling down.
Hey, you mustn't get yourself depressed just because everybody's laughing at what a fool you made of yourself. You just pick yourself up and carry on with a smile. Now you keep your pecker up, okay?
Since he obviously invites the comparison, why don't we compare Yamazaki to another boy? Kintaro Oe is one of those characters that seems to be cut from the same cloth as Yamazaki, average Japanese 20-something caught up in the rat race of the working world while being defined by his vice for the fairer sex. But though Kintaro might also have some self-control issues with the ladies, his young lust isn't his sole motivator like with Yamazaki. Kintaro's goal in life is to always be learning new skills, finding value in any job, and striving to be a better person. The ladies are just a bonus. Compare this to Yamazaki, where every action of his is just a means to an end to getting some tail. Also, the women in Kintaro's life, while initially just seeing him as a lusty pervert, are ultimately won over to him by an act of kindness that shows them that he really is in fact a good person deep down, and that he has also helped them become a better person as well. That or winning a bike race. Compare Golden Boy to Junk Boy. It does something similar with a girl falling for Yamazaki out of an act of kindness, but it just doesn't work. The girl, Aki, is a beat reporter who was doing undercover work at a soapland where Yamazaki was also there doing investigative research. This allows Aki to get into print that Yamazaki is a selfish lover.
A little more feeling and a bit less mechanics might help. You bored me, you know that? You bored me. You bored me.
Naturally, Yamazaki begs for a do-over like a normal person totally would, but Aki turns him down flat. And after a montage where it shows us that Yamazaki is the type who clearly doesn't take no for an answer, we find out that Aki has never had a man who really gave her satisfying sex.
Sex doesn't mean much to me. I never felt any pleasure ever in my life.
What? I don't believe it.
Believe what you like. It's true.
So Yamazaki takes Aki out on the town, rents her a beautiful evening gown, and wines and dines her on the rooftop of a nearby office building where they proceed to make hot, passionate love among the city lights. So Aki learns the lesson that Yamazaki is a good person because he gave her good D. But it's also clear that Yamazaki didn't do that because he wanted Aki to feel better. He just wanted to do that in order to save face after being called bad at sex in print. It was just a way to get into a girl's pants while also proving her wrong. The ultimate power fantasy. But the biggest comparison I can make between the two is that Golden Boy was just funny. Even when Kintaro is at his worst, it can still result in an excellent bit of physical comedy.
I got it!
The comedy in Junk Boy, on the other hand, is just boner jokes. Nothing but boner jokes.
When you're falling without a parachute, potato gold gives your rocket instant recharge and keeps you going high.
The punchline in nearly every scene is Yamazaki gets a massive erection with hilarious results. Even if it tonally breaks the scenes, we need a reminder that that is not a cucumber in Yamazaki's pocket, and he is indeed happy to see them. The humor of Junk Boy is just like its protagonist, extremely one note. That's all I'm willing to say about Junk Boy. Beneath all the glamorous art direction and beautifully designed women lies a seedy underbelly brought on by a truly unappealing protagonist that we are supposed to like. Yamazaki is a character that makes you feel unclean, and he does such a good job at it that he completely disguises the anime's banal comedy. The pervert archetype in anime will still remain a divisive topic of conversation, and the existence of characters like Ryohei Yamazaki does it no favors. There may be worse anime with even worse protagonists out there, but Junk Boy is an anime I can do without. Sorry to the fine talented folks of Madhouse, but this is an anime that really puts your skills to waste.
Won't you admit it? You simply can't keep your hands off me.